All Hello, everybody, and I'd like to say welcome to the Wine, Women, and Crypto. Today, we have an incredible guest. Her name is Liz Kukka. And before I give you her full introduction, I would just like to say to each and every one of you, I really appreciate you coming and joining us today, wherever you are in the world. And also like to let you know that they got me this beautiful shirt. It says Wine, Women, and Crypto. I didn't know how else to show it to you because it is just phenomenal. But we also have it in the Bitcoin Buys R Us store. So if you're interested in that shirt, please feel free to reach out to Bitcoin Buys R Us and they will get you a Wine, Women, and Crypto shirt. And then to our sponsors, we are doing the wine thing. And so we are dealing with and would love to make sure that everybody knows about the McBride sisters. And they have a wine collection, the McBride sisters. And it is just an incredible wine. And I know that you all are just looking for different variations of wine, but I think you ought to try out their different wines. They're just incredible. And so we just like to give a shout out to the McBride sisters today. And then again, our esteemed guest today is Liz, and she has done some phenomenal things in the space. But before we get started, Liz, what are you drinking today?
I'm actually cheating. This is called Kin, K-I-N, and Kin is it's actually a non-alcoholic beverage. I do love wine, so don't get me wrong. But it's a non-alcoholic beverage. It's a neotropic drink, so it's supposed to be kind of brain positive, and it has a little bit of caffeine, or maybe some would think it's a lot of caffeine. It's about as much caffeine as a cup of coffee, maybe a little bit less.
And it's called Kin, so it's spelled K-I-N?
Yeah, K-I-N.
K-I-N. Okay, so we learned something new today, and that's awesome, and thank you for that. And so as I start, this young lady she's done so much in the blockchain space, and we're going to hear a little bit from her in a second, but she's just incredible. And every time I look up blockchain and women, this lady stands at the top of that list. And so we're going to hear a little bit about her, what it is she does, how she functions in the space, and just all those things. And so without further ado, I would like to introduce to some Miss Liz Kukka, who is I'll let her tell you all what she does. So we'll just kind of ask you to just take a deep breath and I know you do interviews all the time, so this is no big challenge, but just tell us a little bit about yourself and what company you founded that is absolutely incredible, has a huge market cap, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But what company did you like? Just who are you?
Well, now you've built it up so much. I'm a little bit intimidated to get started.
No. You can fill up every one of those boots, so don't worry about it.
Well, Najah, thank you for the very kind and graceful introduction. Again, my name is Liz Kukka, and I've been full-time focused in the blockchain crypto space for over 3 years now, but was first introduced to Bitcoin in 2014, and it just took me a while to join the space full-time. Right now, I'm at Masa Finance, but I'll get to that last. I'll start by kind of sharing my journey of how I got here, because I think that's probably more interesting and something that people can relate to, especially if they're looking to transition into working full-time in blockchain or crypto, or starting out their own company or whatever it may be. So I was at Plug and Play Tech Center before joining Digital Finance Group. And at Plug and Play Tech Center, it's an accelerator based in Silicon Valley, kind of like a Techstars or a Y Combinator. And while there, I was running our InsurTech startup and investor program, first in Silicon Valley and Sunnyvale, and then globally in Germany, in Japan, in China. We had an office in New York and a couple of other places. While doing that, I started to dive deeper and deeper into crypto. I kept meeting people who were like, "Do you know about EOS? Do you know about ETH? Do you know about this? Do you know about that?" And like, some people were just like, kind of like shilling me their project or like their team or their tribe or whatever it was. And as I said, I first found out some years before that, but just really wasn't sure what to make of it. So I started to get really interested because of the data privacy aspect, because of the data ownership piece. Like, that's first what pulled me in. And I started to host events, both with kind of traditional startups, traditional corporates, and then would also bring in a blockchain perspective and what it would bring kind of to data privacy and data ownership. So that was my first kind of jaunt into the space, like in 2016, 2017. And then along the way, I really wanted to go full time. And I started looking at, who's hiring, what could I do? How could I keep this going, but full time? Thankfully, Digital Finance Group reached out to me and asked if I would be interested in launching an accelerator dedicated to Ethereum Classic. So in 2018, I launched Ethereum Classic Labs, worked with over a dozen startups or so, was on the investment team. And after about a year, we decided to pivot a bit to grants. So if you think about Ethereum and consensus, you're really just helping teams get off the ground. You're helping with R&D. You're kind of realizing that maybe they're too early from an investment perspective unless there's a token associated. But back then, at the end of 2018, early 2019, people had kind of shied away from tokens for a while because of like all of the ICO scams and things like that. And of course there's a comeback, and there's still that comeback now. But at that time, a lot of startups were really trying to stay away from tokens because they thought it kind of ruined their reputation. So did accelerator, did grants, and then eventually moved just to the parent company, to Digital Finance Group. And it's there that I worked with our hedge fund, which is a crypto-based hedge fund, worked with limited partners, worked with our trading team, worked with auditors, helped launch Matrix Exchange, which is a fully regulated exchange in Abu Dhabi, helped with partners, vendors, general management, and then also helped launch, which it's still in the, I guess there's approval, but it's not fully launched yet. And that's Digital Custody Inc. It's a crypto custody business in South Dakota. And so on that front, I helped go through regulation, compliance, worked with legal, all the great fun stuff you have to do to essentially launch a bank. A custody business is just shy of getting a banking license. So it's quite a lot of stuff, a lot of hurdles you have to jump through to do that. And then, of course, investing along the way. So that's kind of been the journey up until recently, where I've since moved to Pngme and Masa Finance.
Okay, well, that is incredible. As I said before, there are tall boots to fill, and I think you filled them all. You have done an incredible job. In fact, when I look at you and what you've done in the space, I have to just quite honestly say that even though I'm doing some things a little bit different, I look at all that you have done and don't put limitations on myself. And so a lot of people are like, why are you doing all these different things? And I realize because this space is evolving so quickly and so fast, you've got to really get in where you fit in, and not really hold back and do some of the things that you need to do to be a pioneer in the space. And so before we kind of go into what you're doing currently, what were you doing prior to this whole blockchain revolution? Because I read some things about you being in school and finding out about Bitcoin. Like, what was that journey about?
Yeah. So before Plug and Play, I was getting my MBA I'm from the Bay Area, so I was in San Francisco getting my MBA. But before that, I was a school teacher. I was a public school teacher with at-risk youth in San Francisco in the Western Addition. Loved my students and families to pieces. And maybe one day I'll go back to teaching, but not. It's actually it's kind of ironic because growing up, financial institutions were kind of my enemy. They're not my enemy today, right? But it's interesting how I've ended up here, because I was like an impact nonprofit, help change the world person. And then I wanted to go back to school because I realized that nonprofit and for-profit didn't understand each other. They weren't speaking the same language. And really, the for-profit side of the world almost didn't take nonprofit seriously, right? It's a charity, it's something you help, but it's not really something that you listen to. And so I really wanted to give a voice to impact, and give a voice, be at the table with people who are really making global decisions and really driving kind of the world as we know it, like kind of those power players. And so how could I kind of squeak in my little, for the people voice as much as I possibly could?
Well, that is incredible. And so I'm just going to actually speak to the school teacher. and I like for you to speak to us as a school teacher. So you're a school teacher. You have a regular 9 to 5. You're dealing in the nonprofit sector, and I understand exactly what you're saying. People don't quite take it seriously. What made you get the actual? I don't even. I don't want to use the word. I don't want to use the word that's coming to mind because it equates to men. So what gave you the gumption? I'll say it that way. I was going to say BALLS. But what helps you step out of that comfort zone and dig into a world that nobody had really is talking about or
Yeah.
really understands for that matter? Like that's a really hard, not really a hard switch because I know you weren't getting paid that much, but you love what you do. You love your families. I heard you say that, which is awesome, especially in the Bay Area, um, anywhere in the world for that matter. But what gave you the gump, just the nerve to step out into this space?
Yeah. So I would say for like a big bulk of my life, I've always been like a little bit rebellious, and but also as respectful as I could be to my family. Probably not as much as I should have been sometimes, right? And they kept trying to persuade me to not really follow my dreams, and that sounds bad, but it was kind of like, don't be an artist. What in the world are you going to do? Don't become an athlete. What, like, that's never going to really happen. Don't move to New York because that's scary. You're too far from home, right? And so I was told no, and like kind of trying to hold me so close for so long. I think as a teacher, I didn't hit a ceiling, but I sort of did. I didn't want to be a principal. I didn't want to get a master's degree and become a teaching the teacher. It felt really restrictive to just stay in education. So I went back to school, despite my family saying, like, what are you doing? Like, you're crazy. Like, just stay, be satisfied. Like,
Right.
just be content with what you're doing. But
Yes.
for some people, like, I love being challenged. I like taking the hard path. I'm the person who rolls up their sleeves and does the work no one else wants to do. And, I did it for a while in teaching for 7 years. So I think I was ready to kind of do it again somewhere else. And kind of felt like I had missed opportunities to be fearless, right? For those other moments earlier in life where somebody was trying to hold me back and say, no, that's scary. Don't do that. So this was when DFG reached out to me when I was at ETC Labs and said, do you want to come do this? It was like, and let me tell you, when they reached out to me, it was like a phone call. Okay, it was a LinkedIn message and then a phone call on a Saturday at like 7 p.m. And I was just like, is this for real? Like, is this a scam? And I talked to our legal counsel when I was at Plug and Play still. I was like, can I get your advice on this? He's like, sounds like a scam. I don't know. And I just went for it. I talked to somebody who, so Terry Culver, he's a GP. He's based in New York City. He used to teach at Columbia. He seemed legitimate enough. I'm like, okay, this can't be a scam. Like, this has got to be real. So yeah, just didn't really look back, and really glad for that, and truly believe that everyone who's listening in can have a vision and even craft a vision along the way, and even tag on to other people's visions and make it part of their own, and really lead the future, or be a part of what's going to be the future, which I fully believe is going to be blockchain and digital assets.
Yes. And as I alluded to a little bit earlier, you don't know, but I pay close attention to your career. I'm in a situation where I am crafting as I go and being a pioneer. And, even as much as I love my mother to pieces, just like you loved your families to pieces, I know you love your family to pieces. But, sometimes our family and friends are like some of the individuals that hold us back from our dreams and some of the things that we want to do. And my mom's like, are you sure? Are you sure you want to challenge the banks? Because right now the banks aren't quite my friend. And we'll get into that if we even have time. But, some of the challenges that we face in this space are just tremendous. I just remember reading about you. I read about you. I read about Ethereum Classic Labs, and just really trying to do my research, trying to figure out where the women are in this space, because you always hear about the men. The men are always speaking. The men are always highlighted. And I remember this like really, it's like really a vivid memory of mine, because I was reading about you and all the things that you were doing. And then my mom came over with a AARP book. And in that AARP, it wasn't talking about blockchain, but it was talking about cryptocurrency specifically. And it was just basically saying that, stocks and bonds are good. 401ks are awesome and insurance is awesome. And then it got to cryptocurrency. And I kid you not, it said used by criminals and thieves.
Yeah.
And I had to, and my mom was like, are you sure you want to get into this thing? And I remember going back and reading your bio about Ethereum Classic Labs and the market cap at that time. I'm not sure it was where it is today. I think today you're well over 1.5 billion, right?
It's pretty high.
Yeah, it's pretty high. But you weren't there yet, but you were pretty high still at that time. And I was thinking to myself, like, if I don't go for this and if I don't do and follow my dream, and I had no idea you were a school teacher, but I was just really looking at what you had put together as, as an executive at executive director. Uh-oh, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. But I think, something that you touched on, that your mom had told you, which is that, this is a space for crooks and criminals. I find it so funny when people say that because, actually, I won't even go down like the political history of the country, right? But I was on a panel like 2 weeks ago with a couple guys from Deloitte and somebody it was all men, me and a bunch of men, and so it was 2 guys from Deloitte, a guy from Amazon, and like somewhere else, and the host was doing this on behalf of like a banking group, and they made a comment similar to that, like, oh, it's used for drugs and money laundering and so on and so forth, and I was like, do you realize it's actually quite small? It's actually like 2% or less. It's probably quite less actually than traditional finance, where JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, which I bank with all of them, and I use DeFi, right? But like they're all charged in the billions of dollars a year for money laundering, for embezzlement, for so on and so forth. And it doesn't make it okay. But don't use that excuse, because all it's doing is, I think it's really just slowing down progress, and it really demonstrates fear. And I think that's about it.
Yeah. And and you're exactly right. And it demonstrates fear, and fear that day I did not have. I tell you, I went back and read about Ethereum Classic Labs and what you had created. And I said, you know what? I'm in an uncharted water space, opening up a brick and mortar exchange with the, over the counter. And I'm just going to go gung ho. If that means that I'm writing to the state of California, and you're in California too, which gave me some inspiration. But if I'm writing to them and they're not telling me that they don't have any laws right now, and I don't need an MSB and some of the other things that they did and continue to do, is kind of like things change. I said, you know what? I can give this a go and just change and be versatile and make things change. My phone is just ringing off the hook. I'll tell you why in a few, but I just decided, actually, because of you and what you've accomplished, and you don't know that. So this is an absolute incredible time for me to actually be able to interview you, because you were a part of some of my decisions to just continue to just go forward, no matter what the family was saying, to just know that because you were successful in the blockchain space and just really bringing some validity to some of the things, because I was an ex-financial advisor, and not that I thought that the space wasn't reputable, but I wanted to really see some other women that were doing it. And you had an incredible story, and what you were doing and have done is incredible. And so what have been some of your biggest challenges as it relates to some of the men that you are dealing with in this space? Because we know it is still a male-dominant space. What are some of the challenges you face and that you would like to share with some of the other women about?
Yeah, sure. And I would love to hear about, the project or business. I don't know what stage it's at, that you're working on or have already launched. So I would love to learn more and see how we can work together. And I have different feelings about banks from all kinds of different perspectives, but like traditional banks. Some challenges that I've had, I haven't had too many, to be quite honest. I think most people have actually been, it depends on like which kind of events you're going to, like which chain, so to speak. So I think like the Ethereum folks tend to be a bit more like academic and research oriented, and I would say to some degree respectful of women. I love Bitcoin like through and through, but I gotta say, like, maybe a little bit more traditional misogynist, maybe a little bit. So I don't know. I don't know that it's any different than like men at any other conference, any other venue. It's kind of similar, and especially in finance, where in my experience, women have
Yeah.
to, or women who succeed, they're attractive, they're funny, they're smart, they're smiling, they're almost like keeping you happy, right? A group of men, and that's why you get to play along because they enjoy your company, which sounds
Yeah.
terrible, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's that much different than traditional finance.
And it's not at all. And that's where I come from is financial services. And I was just like, I don't know. I went to, and I said this, I think this, I don't know if this is the first interview since Bitcoin 2020. I think it's the second one. But Bitcoin 2020 just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So we had like 2 or 3 women that they invited to speak on the panel. And then the women that they hired were these women. Were you at Bitcoin 2020?
Yeah, I was.
Did you get a chance to see the women with the bathing suits and the lampshades on their heads?
No, I'm terrible. I didn't even make it to the conference. I had a ticket and everything, but I was at like a bunch of side events, and like friends kept telling me that the queue was a mess and it was packed, and so I never
Oh
even got
yeah,
inside.
it was definitely that. But I think that event gave me so much, just like, oh, just it's like women need to. We've got to show our face in this space, and that we're more than butts, but we have brains, right? And so I think that the Bitcoin 2020 really gave me some fire, and I'm looking forward to what 2022 holds because they cannot just put us into those bikinis and lampshades and think that's okay. And so that just etched something in my brain. So
I
we got to do something.
We do, and I think part of it, I'm a huge fan of both women empowerment. I also want men to feel empowered, right? And I think it's I think for a lot of men in the crypto space, this is a huge assumption here because I kind of see, but I've seen both. But for people who are getting wealth for the first time, and we all know that men have used wealth in the past to attract women, right, and to kind of claim status. And so I think for people in crypto, I think that's certainly a piece of it, right? Like you've reached this point, and now these are the things you get. Sort of like, I don't know. So I think men are lacking male leadership for sure, and for a while now. So I think it just takes some male leaders standing up and helping shape a new path for them and what it means to be a man. And it doesn't necessarily mean being a misogynist.
Yes.
Or objectifying women.
Yeah. Yes. And you are coming to their rescue because I hadn't looked at it quite that way. Because I think I just wanted to stand in the middle of the floor and just start screaming, like throw a tantrum. But yes, so thank you for helping me look at that perspective. So, but yes, I agree. And I appreciate that different perspective. So I was reading another article and you were talking about some of the things. In fact, I'm going to look it up really quick. You were saying 5 of the things that most excite you about blockchain. And so I'm always trying to tell people, even though I'm in the cryptocurrency space, that cryptocurrency is awesome. Bitcoin is one of the sole ways I personally see for the Black and brown community that we're going to close the wealth gap. But we have to get beyond Bitcoin. And I've said all the time, even though they're like, what are some of the things that you saw or that you love in blockchain that you think that women need to really understand? And, what are some of those things?
Yeah, I hope this is a good answer. And I don't know that I'm going to answer it directly, but I think two things that come to mind first and foremost. So in finance in general, women tend to have less of a financial education. And then women also tend to be less risk takers because they are caring for family or whatever it is that it may be. But they often, like, I don't have kids. I'm married, but I don't have kids. Right? So like my threshold for risk is a lot higher than a lot of other people. And I think women, if they have children, I know if I had a child, I would be far less risk taking because I'm knowing there's somebody here relying on me, right? And men, for some reason, just like even it's just not as much there, right? It's not as much like locked in. So I'd say for women, first and foremost, like get at the forefront. Like don't be second, don't be third. Like don't wait until somebody else tells you it's okay, it's safe. Like just try, give it a try, because otherwise we're always just going to be second class, and men are just going to be running right in front of us, right, and doing it first and being the risk taker. So I think there's that. But for blockchain, broadly speaking, what I think is pretty exciting, and I think this has to do with getting in the front, is that I see internet kind of 3.0, web 3.0 is what we call it, is just like the internet was. And so just as Lyft and Uber replaced the taxi cab, I think web 3.0 is going to replace Lyft and Uber. And same for Netflix to Blockbuster. So how the internet replaced brick and mortar, I really see web 3.0 as replacing the internet. And so I think that's something to get really excited about, because what blockchain brings to the surface that the traditional web doesn't, one, it brings a layer of transparency. Two, it brings data privacy and data ownership, which none of us have today. Maybe you have some data privacy if you use a VPN. I use Brave for my search engine, right, or my browser. And I recommend it to everybody, because you receive free BAT tokens or free crypto when you click on ads.
Right.
Yeah. So I've made like $80 over like a couple of years. It hit almost like 170 at one point when the token was pretty high. So why not? But where I'm going with this is that I do think that that this is going to replace what we know. And that means identity, that means your banking, that means how we think about data and how we own our own data. It means democratization of ownership and creating businesses that have an infrastructure like blockchain in place that makes it really simple, so that the participants can also be the owners. So instead of me just giving a bunch of content to Twitter or to Facebook or to LinkedIn, as we are all the product, right? And they're all making money off of us. Why can't I decide if you get to do that or not? And if I can benefit off that? And even better yet, is a blockchain company giving the users a voice and part of the governance structure and the decisions that are being made. And so it's not completely innovative, because I think in the 80s, and this is like, I was pretty young, but like from what I understand, you had far more money coming from the top being distributed to workers, to the community, to people. And it's really shifted quite a bit. And so it's a bit of kind of going back a little bit, also taking a cooperative approach, but adding the layer of technology and adding that layer of peer-to-peer. Why can I give Najah, why can I give you $100 in cash? But if I give you $100 in Bitcoin, it's like this whole other thing. It's just ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense to me why it needs to be tracked and traced, but you can't track and trace a dollar, right? So anyway, that's what I think. Right. Yeah, I think that's what women should get excited about. That I really think it's the future. Get a little bit educated about it as much as you can or want to, and just try to get in front of it, because I really do think it's coming. And I could talk at great lengths at what I think the future is.
Right. Well, you know what? And we appreciate your perspective. And so for somebody that's in this every single day, all day, to really hear what you have to say is a confirmation to some of the women that are really trying to figure out what their vertical is. And so we hear a lot of times people are like, well, how, is this here? Is it here to stay? Is it just a fad? Is this a blockchain bubble? And just some of those things. And to hear your perspective is really good. It solidifies for me, I know, as well as other women, the real validity of the blockchain space and what the future actually has to hold. So because we are kind of at the bottom of the hour, we kind of want to hear what you're doing in the financial space right now. If you can share a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm part of the core team for Masa Finance. It's masa.finance. We're in closed beta right now. But if you go to masa.finance, the website will pull up, so you can sign up if you're interested. And what we're doing is we're essentially creating, think of it as the merger of a traditional credit score with the decentralized credit score, or a single view of all of your financial transactions. And the reason why some people might want to do that is if I'm doing a lot of participation in DeFi, none of that is being captured. If I'm migrating myself away from B of A or JP Morgan or whatever, I know how am I going to keep my credit score high? How am I going to get credit at all, right? Unless it's highly collateralized. And today it is highly collateralized within the crypto space. So what we're trying to do, or what we are doing, is building that that bridge between both worlds so that eventually we will have uncollateralized lending and credit within crypto.
Well, you know what is really interesting because I'm the co-founder of, I don't know if you know that or not, co-founder of the Black Wall Street Wallet, which is the first digital wallet for African Americans, Black and brown folks. Um, and we're really trying to do something different. And, we were talking the other day, we had 2 weeks ago, we had kind of like a shut in, kind of like a sequester. We were sequestered for the weekend. And we really talked about what our platform looks like. And folks talked about exactly what you're doing at Masa. And I was like, why would we recreate the wheel? Why don't we try to see if we can lock arms with Masa and create that for the Black and brown community? Because there are so many of us, to be exact, there's 65 million of us that are unbanked.
Wow. In the U.S.?
In the U.S. In the U.S.
Wow. Oh, wow.
And so what I do is so important from what the Black Wall Street Wallet does is so important from what you do. This DeFi credit score could literally change the lives of millions of Americans because, and just quickly, because this show isn't about me, it's about what you do, but just so you understand. So the 65 million unbanked, like they can't buy Bitcoin or Ethereum or anything of that matter from any of the platforms because they don't have a bank account to attach. Mm. And so they have to be able to walk into like a brick and mortar exchange or something like what I have. And, but that also means that they're not participating in TransUnion, Experian, and all those things. And so we're really trying to figure out what the healthy direction we could go. And when I found out about what it is you all have to do with the DeFi credit score, I just really thought it would be an incredible fit if we partner with you to bring that aspect to the Black Wall Street so that people can start building up their credit. And so I know you kind of, and I don't know if you want to go a little bit deeper into how, like what's the algorithm, like what are the things that you do on the platform that actually help folks?
Yeah. And that's a really great point that you made about, if you're so a couple things, and I'll get to your question about the algorithm. So the founder, Brendan Playford, who I also work with at Pngme, which is another financial, like a fintech. He's not from the US. He's not American. He's working on getting his citizenship. But when he moved to this country, and again, this is similar to he falls into that bucket of 65 million people. He didn't have a credit score. Even though he'd been mining Bitcoin since 2013 and had a bunch of assets. Yeah. And he had been doing really well for himself, but zero credit score when coming to this country. There's like a special kind of credit card or something that you can get as like a new entrant, but you have to pay money just to get access to it. It's something that no one in the US who is experienced with this system actually is familiar with. And he told me about it. And I was like, oh, I had no idea. But where I'm going with this is that, that was part of his dream and vision as well, which is that there are a lot of people who just can't access markets. And how do we help? Or how do we ensure that everyone can be a part of wealth generation, not just people who already have it? And so that was a big part of it. And then to answer your question about algorithms, so we use data models. We collect data, right, with people's permission, and then we build data models. And then with those data models, we're able to assess for risk essentially, or give like a picture, like a full and complete picture of, the best we can, right? And like it's a starting point for sure. And working with lenders and credit providers who want to work with us and are willing to use the models that we've generated.
Okay. So I guess there's a couple of things, and I know we're on Wine, Women, and Crypto, but I have got to say this. So I'm thinking about returning citizens, individuals that have been incarcerated and have come home, done everything that they need to do, but have not really been given the full opportunity as it relates to a credit score. And I mean, let's just be real. It is the way that the system is set up right now that doesn't give them a second chance. And so do you think that Masa would be a possible fit for those individuals, as long as they're paying their rent and their cell phone bills and just some of the other things that show that these returning citizens have done what they need to do to be exemplary citizens? Do you think that's a possibility?
Oh, of course. I mean, I
Putting it
think as
out
long
there.
as, yeah, I think as long as they're willing to check the box, like, yes, you can take some of my, use some of my data so we can get
Yes.
a proper score. I mean, absolutely. But I think that's a beautiful idea. And I don't think I don't even think I know we haven't scratched the surface on this topic yet. And this is, as somebody who's interested in broadly speaking, social services, this is a passion area of mine as well. So I
Well,
think for
let me know.
incarcerated people to get back on their feet when they can't really get access to anything, right? They're denied left and right, to participate in traditional institutions. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yes. Well, just think of me because I have something I'm going to announce on April 15th. Actually, I'm April, Lord, August 15th. I don't know one day from the next. Like COVID has just blurred a whole bunch of things. But August 15th. So we're doing something called Bars to Bitcoin. So we would love to work with you and Masa to do some different things. We got to do something different than we've been doing because it really has not, on the social service side, this regular traditional finance, credit scores, like all these things have not served our community. And it's like we deserve those who have gotten it together and just really trying to do some things. We deserve a option. I'm going to say it that way, an option. And so, again, I appreciate everything that you do, all that you have brought to the table for not just women, but people that are disadvantaged. I know that you are a voice and have been a voice for those individuals that have been disenfranchised, those folks that, just have not gotten their fair share and not giving anything out. That's not what I'm talking about. Those folks that are willing to meet you halfway and looking for a hand up and not a hand out. And so I just appreciate across the board all that you bring in your spirit for making sure that everybody is served on the equal playing field. And so we appreciate you for that. So I don't know that if we have any other questions, but I would like to, if we have any questions, our staff will pull up those questions and put them up there for us in the question and answer. But if there are any final words that you have, because we definitely are respective, we respect your time. And are there any closing words, anything you'd like to share with any of the women out there that are on the fence trying to figure out if they need to stay in the traditional whatever or come into the blockchain again beyond Bitcoin? Blockchain is phenomenal. And I always say this again as a teaching moment. Bitcoin cannot exist without the blockchain, but the blockchain can exist without Bitcoin. And so all of those things
That's
our
true.
women need to know, and they need to know that blockchain is so, so, so incredible. And I don't even believe it when I hear people say there's a blockchain bubble. I hear that all the time. And I know that there are some companies that are getting into blockchain that don't need to. They could probably just use a database. I agree with that. But blockchain ladies and gentlemen and the brave men that love us, I'll say it that way, is going to revolutionize a lot of the things that we know today. And so we'll just ask Liz. Liz, what are like your closing words on the blockchain?
Yeah, I have two things to kind of have everyone kind of walk away with. One, there are, I think, some pretty known investors who recommend to people to diversify, right, as much as you can, and that's not new. And I'd say including digital assets within your portfolio is just a wise move, right? Because you're
Mhm.
getting access. You're just diversifying your risk. It doesn't mean you're all in. Put in 10%, put in 15%, something like that. Something that some of these blockchain companies are doing, who also have tokens, is they're giving you access to. It's like an IPO. It's the same idea. So when Nike first IPO'd and had stocks, and eventually it hit an exchange, and eventually it was at E-Trade or wherever, and or Robinhood, and you could buy some. It's the same thing with blockchain. So there's teams like the Graph and Solana and Algorand and Near, and these brilliant people who are PhDs in mathematics, who are computer scientists, who are brilliant people who've come from Wall Street and from MIT and everywhere else you can imagine to build this blockchain ecosystem. And you can participate and support their future and also get a return. And
Yeah.
that's what crypto is for the bulk of them, maybe not all of them, but for the bulk of them. So I think that's pretty inspiring and interesting. The last piece is if you don't hold any crypto today, or if you've been burned in the past, just like any other investment, you need to do research, right? If you're just going to randomly pick something, just random stock that you see because it's at a low price or something, and you have no clue what it's about. I mean, it's the same thing. It's the exact same idea. What I tend to recommend to people is, or what most people do, is they start out like vanilla. So they'll start out by buying through Robinhood or PayPal or something that is extremely comfortable for them. The downside, though, is that a lot of people start there and then they realize that they don't own it because they can't take it off of the platform. You can sell your Ethereum or Bitcoin back to the platform, but I can't send it to Najah. I can't send it and pay for pizza or clothes or whatever. I can't really use it. It's just sitting. And so it's usually at that point that folks will then go to a Coinbase or a Kraken or a Hobie or whatever else. And then usually after, and I say those because I recommend those over something that's really decentralized, where maybe the security's not as high or there's more risk. And then
Yes.
after that Coinbase phase, who's never been hacked, by the way, neither has Kraken. Kraken actually has the number one security of any exchange in the world and an extremely competent security team. So doing that research on who's been hacked before, who hasn't. Binance, unfortunately, has been hacked quite a bit, but you do get your money back. Anyway, after all that, then I would go down the DeFi route to the Uni swaps and the Pancake swaps and all of these other platforms that take quite a bit more deep dive to become comfortable. So again, start out slow, walk before you run, do your research, and please don't download any random wallet thing that you find online, because that's usually where people get hacked or they get their money stolen.
Yes. And so I'm just going to reiterate, just so everyone is clear, I am 100% about education and 100% about the truth and making sure that our community is well versed at what we're talking about. So as Liz stated, when you buy on Robinhood, just beware that first of all, you can never even list your beneficiaries. So if something happens to you, you're not able to pass it down to children, husbands, anybody for that matter. Robinhood owns all of the assets. One of the other things I wanted to just quickly share, what she touched on, is that Robinhood does not allow you to take it off. You may not have understood it the first time, but I got to tell you the second time. When you buy your assets on Robinhood, they are issuing you an IOU. They owe you whatever you bought because they're holding on to it. I'll just say it another way. So that's it. As it relates to Coinbase, I just have to be 100% honest. I'm always keeping it 100. Coinbase is one of my least favorites, not because of their platform. Well, kind of because of the platform. Anytime there's like a time back in the day, 2016, 2017 for sure, when I needed to trade, Coinbase was just always conveniently down. So that was something that bothered me. If you're going to use Coinbase, folks, use Coinbase Pro because the fees are a lot less, just so you know that part. But then when you go and do your research, I need you all to go Google. Forbes has an article out that shows about the treatment of women at Coinbase and their Black employees. Those two for me were a killer. I'm both Black and I'm both a woman. And so when you read that Forbes article, I just want to make sure that you're in. Again, Coinbase, you can use it. It's reputable. People, they're they did an IPO. They've got a lot of things going for them, but I also always have to make sure that our community understands. If you choose to support them based on some of their stances, do that, but please do your research. Kraken, as she stated, Binance has had a couple of different challenges. I know Catherine Coley, and she's trying to do her best, but some things happen. And also in bringing that up, just know that almost 85% of the hacks happen internally. Either it's an ex-employee or somebody that knows the systems and those sorts of things. So you do have to do your due diligence. And I appreciate all that Liz has said to us today to help us really get a better understanding of what we need to be doing. And I'm going to ask my staff really quick, if you are all listening, which I know you are, if you can put up that last question for Liz, because I know you took it down right when she was about to speak. and I wasn't able to capture it. Erica, if you can put up that question on the screen for us, and then we'll start to oh, there we go. Do you feel that people will want to combine their traditional finances with their crypto, especially people who do not want to pay taxes on cryptocurrency? Will people keep a stakehold BTH? Oh, in both worlds. Will people keep a stakehold in both worlds? I'll let you stab at that, Liz, and then I will try to unpack that really quickly from my perspective.
Yeah, so I'm a taxpayer. So I think like just starting right there is like a non-starter, like because what else are you going to say anyway? So I think I personally would love to combine it. So paying taxes for me today is a nightmare. It is an absolute nightmare. So I have to get all of my traditional stocks, all my traditional transactions with all of my crypto transactions, and like get it all together and hand it over to somebody to do it for me, because I'm so concerned that I'm going to make a mistake and the government's going to come out, the IRS is going to come after me, right? Because it's crypto and I'm just, things don't look like they're adding up. So it is an absolute headache. There are a couple of solutions out. So Masa does address the tax piece. It does. It's not like
Wow.
we're most excited about. Yeah, because it's getting everything in one centralized place. It's not like our favorite part, but it is there. So yes, we do believe that people will be comfortable combining. We also believe that organizations like Uniswap and others are going to be forced to have KYC AML soon, like within the next year or so, which would require people to provide a legitimate identity to participate, and therefore they'll be tracked and traced anyway. And so I think it's just we're really kind of thinking that it's just a matter of time. Does that mean that there won't be any sites you can't use that are kind of unknown? Well, of course there always is, and there will probably be a 10% of the population who really want to be anonymous, but we don't think that that's the bulk. We think most people want to play by the rules. We think most people want to, be upstanding citizens, and just want to be able to have their currencies as the assets that they are and be able to keep them with them, and without somebody telling you. When COVID hit and people tried to take money out of Bank of America, that I know that there were days where people said, we have to cap how much you can take out. There's just too much demand right now. And how stressful that must be for somebody when it's like, but that's my money.
Yeah.
And you're telling me, no, I can't have my money. Like,
right.
So what do? You're going to hide it under the mattress and make zero interest on it. You can't lend it out. You can't do anything with it. Or you can dive into digital assets and kind of take control over your wealth and your assets a bit more.
Absolutely. And I think that you've done a great job saying that. And I'm just going to kind of just really only one thing that I have to say is that I really hope, and I know that we're going to have to combine some things. I am 100% all in on paying my taxes, whatever is needed to really maintain. And I don't want to get into the political part of that, but cryptocurrency taxes is a nightmare. And so I pay a phenomenal CPA to handle my crypto taxes. I pay a couple of different sites to kind of pull all my APIs into one place so that I can make sure that I have the correct information to even give to him. So it costs me a little extra. But what I do want to caution us is that as we begin to put both traditional finances and our crypto assets together, that we don't allow, and this is just my prayer, that we don't allow the banking industry to hold our private keys to our crypto. I think that is going to be detrimental to the mass majority of folks that will trust Chase or Bank of America with their Bitcoin. Because in the event that they, and I don't even know if this is even going to happen, but I just have to give people this thought. What if the federal government decides that cryptocurrency is not able to be held by its United States citizens? And you've got it in Chase or Bank of America. It's going to be just like 1933 when they called in all the gold to the Federal Reserve. They're going to call those in to the Federal Reserve and issue you whatever it is they're going to issue you. And again, I don't want to get political, but when we look at Bitcoin and a lot of the cryptocurrencies, it's about self-sovereignty. It's about us being in control. And I just really pray and hope that those that are listening and that those that are learning are not going to be scared of those seed words or those mnemonic phrases, that you're going to learn how to store them, that you're going to learn how to pass them on to your heirs, that you're going to do everything that you need to do so you're not depending on the folks that have for the last 100 and some odd years really monopolized this whole system. And so I just have to say that because I'm so passionate about our folks making sure that we are taking control finally, because we didn't have any options before and we have options now. And so that's all I will say on that without getting into the political side of this thing, because I can go hard with what I really feel about, again, what's happened in the Black and brown community as it relates to the banks. And I just really hope that our folks are getting comfortable with the blockchain and researching and knowing, how the transactions work and all those things. And so that's what these platforms are designed to do. And so we ask that you come back every month to get a little more information and education. But Liz has already said her final words, and I just want to really thank her. And for more information, as the screen says, about Masa Finance, please feel free to go to Masa.finance. I have already done so. I'm already on the wait lists, and really looking to talk to them about what we can do in a couple of different areas.
Apologies. I couldn't hear what you.
My watch wants to talk now. But a couple of different things, and just again, to each and every one of you who have joined us, really read about Liz, read about her story, read about the waves that she's making in the blockchain industry. Reach out, become a subscriber for Masa, MASA.financial. Get on the wait list. I think it is going to be a worthwhile endeavor for many of our different communities. Just got so many great things that we're working on that I'd like to plug in with her. And so we'll do that offline. So with that, ladies and the brave men that love us, we'd like to thank you for joining Wine, Women, and Crypto. You all have an incredible rest of your day. Stay safe, stay strong, and understand that the blockchain is going to be here. You're going to participate in it, whether you like it or not. And so we hope that you will learn about it and just become a believer in the technology, because it's incredible. It offers us so much, so much, so much. So with that said, thank you all again. Have an incredible rest of your night. And Liz, you keep doing the work. We're going to keep being your #1 fans, and we appreciate you.
Thank you, Najah. Have a great evening.
Thank you. You too. Hold on one sec.
Okay.